Hey guys, and welcome. This is episode 100 of Off the Sprue. No, you're not on the wrong channel. I just decided new year, new soundtrack. This video is all about scratch building. Guys, judging by my viewing numbers, scratch building is a very popular subject, so I thought to dedicate a video to scratch building alone. So this is a scratch building extravaganza, if you wish. First we'll be fitting fuel and water jerry cans. Then we'll be scratch building smoke discharges, antennas, parachute flares, dry bags, and finally some British Army rations. But before we get to all that, let me introduce you to the generous folks that make all these builds possible.
I'm Lindy Swart. I'm the owner of Supernova Studio. We are an online store on the Bluff in Durban, South Africa. We sell hobby, arts and crafts products. We started in October 2018. I was working in the corporate world about 6 years ago when we decided to take a break and go on our own. My husband and I decided at the same time to change from corporate jobs to having our own businesses. So when COVID hit, we had to work and the hobby just took off. We had so many orders over COVID. My mom was away overseas. We actually used her flat to be able to put all the boxes. So her flat was full of boxes, and then we had to find a place to rent when she came back, just because we had so much work. I do all the importing myself of most of my brands, but we do have a wholesale side of our business, which is Super Hobby. We've got a beautiful online store. It's really easy to navigate. If you go onto supernovastudio.durban, you'll find us online.
In the previous video, you'll recall that we detailed these jerry cans from the Hobby Boss kit, and it's time to fit them. Guys, now one first thing to mention is that the fit on these jerry cans is very tight inside that rack. So tight, in fact, that for the fuel cans, I had to remove these dividers. So if you make yours, keep that in mind. You might have to sand those jerry cans. Tetra Model Works supplies the ratchet straps to strap these into the racks on the Jackal, and my good friend the British Army Corporal who's assisting me with this build indicated that there's a very specific way that the cans are strapped into the Jackal. Basically, they take two ratchet straps, turn them into one, and this is then attached in the manner that you see on your screen there. So you'll require two ratchet straps, and there you can see the fuel cans strapped into those racks with the ratchet straps provided by Tetra Model Works. Next up, smoke discharges. Again, my friend indicated that if a Jackal is out on patrol, the rubber caps on these smoke discharges will not be there. There will be actual grenades in there. So we'll have to scratch build some actual grenades. First step is to remove the rubber caps from those smoke discharges, of course sanding them flat. And then once this is done, I'll be using 1mm styrene rod from Evergreen to scratch build the actual smoke grenades from. You can see there the perfect size to fit into those. First, some measurements. Mine, I worked about 2mm or so. Cut a few lengths of styrene rod, and you can see that I've already painted mine in the pale green, similar to what I see in reference pictures. So there's the little stub fitted, and next I'll need to hollow these out to replicate the shape I see in my reference pictures. This is easily done with a small drill and a steady hand, and then finally just touch up the paint. And there we go, guys. That is the actual smoke discharges updated from the Hobby Boss kit to show a Jackal out on patrol. Next, we need to add antennas and wiring. In this reference picture, you can see there's a lot of wiring and some trunking running underneath that canopy section on the real Jackal. This is something I'd like to replicate. First step is to drill some anchoring holes. We'll be adding some wiring, and a small anchoring hole will always make this much easier. You can see there's the wire fitted, and I can now start feeding this into the trunking. For this, I'm using a 1mm black spring from AK Interactive. It works perfectly for this purpose, available from Supernova Studio. Now next, I need to fit some actual antennas to these mounts. And for that, I'm going to cut these a bit shorter, the kit parts, drill them out, because again, I'll be fitting some wire in there. A small anchoring hole makes this easier. And to do the flexible base, I'm again using a piece of 1mm spring. And this will give a very realistic effect, as you'll see in a moment. Next, we have the tall front and rear antennas. And again, my friend in the British Army indicated these measurements, 2.6 meters and 4.8 meters in the rear. Those are the real world lengths. This scale calculator I found on Google Play Store is very handy. We want the scale size in millimeters, the original size in meters, and then of course indicate the scale itself, 1/35. So there we go. Now 1 meter in the real world equates to 28.57 millimeters, and then our length 2.6 meters becomes 74.29 millimeters. This now makes it very easy to measure a piece of wire to the exact size, and again adding realism to our Jackal. And this is quite a stiff piece of wire, ideal for antennas, and I need a sturdy side cutter to cut this with. The next step is to fit this to the kit part, the antenna mount, and once this is done, everything is sprayed NATO green. Now for the rear antenna, I'd like this to be flexed forward, and these bent antenna bases from Ammo Meg is perfect for that. For the antenna itself, I'll be using 0.5mm styrene rod. Again, let's use our calculator. 4.8 meters equates to 137 millimeters. Measure this on the styrene rod, and then finally glue this in place with some gel type super glue. You can see there, this flexes very easily and it won't break any parts on the Jackal. So after everything is painted, I can now just fit these antennas to the front and the rear. And for the rear antenna, I'll need a strong adhesive. So in this case, I'm using some gel type super glue. Sometimes guys, it's helpful just to use a super glue activator to do this. For some added realism, I polished some graphite powder into that bent antenna base. The final detail to add is a retention cord with an O-ring, and this is easily made from wire. Some decals are provided for the antenna base, and this is one of the final details to add. Guys, so there you go. These are all the antennas fitted, the ECM antennas in the rear, the HF antenna, and the one in the front. Certainly adding a nice bit of detail to our Hobby Boss Jackal. The next item I'd like to scratch build is this parachute flare, and in reference pictures you can see quite a few of these on the Jackal, taped to the bars and to ammo cases. To get the correct length, I had to work visually, and for this I used the width of the headrest. You can see there, same length as the parachute flare. Next step is to measure the model's headrest, and then just transfer this measurement to a piece of styrene rod. I think this was the 1.6mm rod. Now guys, you'll notice these caps, a rear rubber cap and another one towards the front, and this I fabricated from masking tape, simply wrapping this around the piece of styrene rod and taping the end in place with some super glue. Don't rely on the adhesion of the tape itself. So there we go, rear and front, and the next step is painting. The base color was a NATO green primer and the rear cap was NATO black, very easily done. To add a little bit of detail, I just lightly dry brushed the edges with World War II beige. Guys, the next detail to add is this lettering. You see the white lettering on the real item. This was done with white gray and a fine Vallejo detail brush from the Pro Modeler range. How do you hold a small item like this for painting? Well, some double-sided tape does the trick. And next you need a steady hand, your fine detail brush. And guys, at 1/35 scale, this just really becomes a row of dots. So this is actually quite easily done. You can see there's the lettering, and we've successfully scratch built something that resembles a parachute flare. To get the lettering the same size, I put these side by side. Next up are these retaining straps that you can see in reference pictures for the 40mm ammo cans. And this is something that I scratch built from 1mm masking tape, painted with German camouflage beige from Vallejo. And with everything together, the ammo cans, the parachute flares and the mounts, I can now assembling this similar to what I see in my reference pictures. Firstly, position the can inside its mount, and then simply glue the parachute flares on top of those ammo cans. Finally, just add the retaining strap, which is the painted masking tape. Easy as that. Final step is to position them in place in the Jackal. So guys, there we go. Nice little added detail, those parachute flares, and certainly adding another level of realism to the Jackal. The next items to scratch build are dry bags, as well as a large deployment bag, or as the British Army calls it, a grip bag. My friend in the British Army indicated that they would store bottled water in the large bag, and that British soldiers love to use dry bags to store various bits and pieces of gear. So we'll be scratch building that next. Now, being kayakers, myself and the missus, I fortunately have the real thing on hand, and it was very easy to just take some measurements, as well as take a careful look at all the details. Now first the length, taking the measurement there, and using our scale calculator. Here we go, 11mm, and then also across the rear there, that is 22. So there we go, those are the measurements. The bags I'll be scratch building from Milliput epoxy putty, available from Supernova Studio. Guys, if you've used this before, you know this is excellent for sculpting, creating various items. This dries rock hard in just a few hours, and it can be drilled and filed as it says on the instructions. The Milliput products are available in different varieties. I've got two, and for this I'll be using the standard one. Guys, if you've used this before, you'll know the procedure. However, if you haven't, it's very easy to use. It comes in both an epoxy and a hardener, stored separately. And basically all you do is use equal amounts of each, equal amounts of the epoxy as well as the hardener. Make sure to store these in the same manner that they are packed in the box separately. And basically you just mix this together, roll them together in your hands, and until it's properly mixed. And then it's just a matter of transferring those measurements we took earlier into the putty itself. I started by rolling little sausages, similar to what you see there. And from then on I used my hobby knife just to create the various details on the dry bag, the rear section as well as the folds that one will see in the real item. Perhaps a few folds at the top where the closure is, and there we go, very easy to use. This is now left to dry. The next item is the large deployment bag or grip bag or duffel bag, whichever naming preference you have for this. Now this is usually kept behind the water cans in the Jackal for bottled water, and we'll also be scratch building this from milliput. Very easy to do. Start with a little sausage and then just shape this into place with whatever tools I have handy. I actually found that the back of my hobby knife was very useful to create those folds in the bag itself. Also, letting this cure for a while made it easier to work with a putty. I left mine to dry overnight, and guys, as you recall, the packaging says this becomes rock hard, and honestly, they weren't kidding when they stated this, because this stuff really becomes rock hard. So hard, in fact, that you can sand this, you can use your files on it, and you can even use your Dremel rotary tool to shape this the way you want after it's fully cured. Now with the putty cured, the next step is to recreate the folded top closure. Initially I thought I would use masking tape for this, and after a few minutes of unsuccessfully fiddling around with this, I abandoned that idea and I went to kitchen foil. Now guys, this is something I touched on in video 58. This is a fantastic scratch building material. Basically what I did was to create a folded strip, and the folded strip then I wrapped around the tip of a toothpick, similar to what you see there. Cut the end short, so we've got a little ring, and the ring can then be super glued to the top of that dry bag. And there we go. Very easy to recreate the closed top closure of a dry bag. This is now set down and left to dry. I also used the tin foil to create the straps on the deployment bag. And with all these items done, all the putty cured, I can now go ahead and apply some primer. And guys, you'll notice those scratch build Bergens, the backpacks with the covers on them. That is something I'll be showing in my next video, so please join me for that. The primer I'll be using for this is Mr. Hobby, as usual, my go-to primer. And primer is now applied to all the scratch build items. And don't skimp on this, because as soon as kitchen foil is involved, a good amount of primer is absolutely necessary. Guys, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I appreciate literally everything, and this was a great opportunity to use this wonderful airbrush from Harder and Steenbeck. This is an absolutely fantastic precision instrument. Highly recommend it, and I'll be doing a video on this later. The entire range is available from Supernova Studio, and this specific brush was generously sponsored by Super Hobby. You can see they're very easy to lay down, very precise airbrush work on these very small dry bags. The next step is to add the base color, and for this I used NATO Black from Vallejo Model Air. Again, applying this very gradually so as not to kill the pre-shading. And the next step to detail this is some dry brushing, and for this I used the Vallejo Neutral Gray. Take care when dry brushing the aluminium strips. They're very easy to bend. Just some final detail painting with a fine Vallejo brush, detail brush. Taking my time, and also adding some detail painting to the dry bags themselves. So guys, there you go, Scratch Build Stowage, both the deployment bag, the grip bag, as well as those dry bags, and these will certainly go a long way to adding realism to the Jackal model. None of these items, as far as I know, are available as accessory or kit parts, so it's great to be able to scratch build them, and products like Milliput certainly makes this possible. So there you go, the grip bag stored behind the water cans containing some bottled water, as my friend in the British Army indicated. Now, if you're building this kit, you'll know that the 40mm grenade boxes don't fit inside this door. However, my friend in the British Army indicated that this is ideal for rations, and for the cartons I used this from FC Model Tips, and they very much want us to enjoy the hobby. The rations I want to scratch build are British Army multi-climate rations. You can see these foil bags in silver and green, and that's something I'll be adding. But first I need the boxes. Now this is very similar to many carton products out there, boxes, and use some white glue, fold them, stick them together. Very easy to do. There's a variety of these available on the market, and really they add such nice detail to your models. Now you'll notice some issues here. The print actually separated from the paper. This is a common issue, and very easy to fix with some tan yellow from Vallejo model color. Just touch up those little white spots there. Also paint the inside of the box, and there we go. This is the boxes for breakfasts, lunch and dinners, as the corporal indicated. Next we need to scratch build these foil pouches, and again I'll be using actual foil from the kitchen. First start by rolling some foil flat, just to start our work with. Now next I'll be using some 0.4mm styrene sheet, and this is for the contents inside these pouches. Just tiny little blocks similar to what I've added there. And these will now be glued onto that piece of tinfoil with some white glue. In this case I used ultra glue from Amomeg, but you can use any other variety. These are now placed on the glue on that piece of foil, and once they're positioned, I simply fold over the piece of foil with the styrene inside. And once this is rolled and pressed flat, you can see the imprint that those little pieces of styrene make. I use different sizes of styrene just to replicate the different size pouches that I see in my reference pics. And this specific one will be the green foil pouch. So there we go, the different sizes, and next I need to color this green, and for that I used L-clad armored glass. I wanted to retain the foil color, and the semi-transparent color from L-clad was absolutely perfect for this purpose. Also it's a lacquer paint, and that adheres to tinfoil quite well. So next step, just cut these from that piece of tinfoil, cut them relatively short, and there we go, we've recreated a pouch of British Army multi-climate rations. Cut these as close to the edge of the styrene as you can, guys, and there you go, quite a nice little detail added to those boxes. To glue them inside the boxes, I again use some white glue diluted with water, and gluing them in place with the thinned white glue. There we go, there's our completed rations, both closed boxes and the open ones. The boxes themselves are held in place with large strips of black duct tape inside the door, inside those partitions. You can see there the boxes fit nicely inside, and once all the boxes are fitted, you can see there's one dry bag in there as well. I just put the tape in place, this being painted 1mm masking tape. So guys, there you go, all the rations have been fitted, and I'm certainly loving this result. All the fine detail, the dry bags, the rations, the parachute flares, all these little details add up to give the Jackal model a special amount of realism. Of course, this build is not done. In the next video I'll be showing you how I painted in detail these covered Bergens that I scratch built from millipits. Guys, this is it for video 100. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, follow me on Instagram. I do frequent updates of all my builds there, and you're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching.